Saw it, dude.
So this month is gonna be our birthday months. You and I are both born in July.
Hmm.
Only just about 2 weeks apart, a little bit less. And what we're doing is we're doing a film that I haven't seen, but you have. You want me to watch? That's today's episode. And we're doing the next one's going to be a film that I want you to watch and you haven't seen. And the last two are going to be a fan favorite film of you and then a fan favorite film of mine. Which all those like those three films to be disclosed later when they come out. No big deal. Besides those films, what were the other options in your head about maybe I want to pick this one for making you watch? What were the other options about like maybe I want to watch this one? And what were deciding factors as to why you didn't do it or why you picked what you picked?
Um, for this week's episode, the other options were Daybreakers. I think I wanted to do The Burning really badly, but there was no access to it other than because I have the Blu-ray.
I guess
Also,
I probably should have said like if you want to do something like that, I could have just rented it. I wouldn't have minded.
okay. I also don't know, like The Burning was one of those ones where like I was trying to rent it for a long time, I just couldn't find it.
Hmm.
So I don't know if it's rentable now or not. But yeah, that was one of them. Daybreakers was one of them. That was on Hulu. I knew you'd have access to that one. I don't know why I didn't go with honestly. I don't know why I didn't go. I have no idea why I didn't go with Daybreakers honestly because I've talked to you about Daybreakers. I've talked Daybreakers up a lot. I was scrolling through Shutter and I just saw The Collector. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, and I really like this movie. Maybe Scott will like it. And I watched it, and as I was sitting there, I'm like, oh no, I'm having a great time. I don't think he's having a good time. So, yeah, that. What was the other one? There was Devil's Rejects was one I wanted to do too, but I'm glad we didn't because we were talking about it after the show, and it's a longer movie. Of all my options, I think that might be no. It's not the longest one because the other one was Apostle on Netflix, by the guy who did The Raid with Dan Stevens. I also wanted to do The Guest. That was another one I was looking at. That was on a streaming service. I can't remember which. I think it was Prime, but it's not really a horror movie, especially not until the third act where it feels more like a slasher movie.
Hmm.
So I was like, I don't know if I could really pick that one. I haven't set in stone my favorite one, so that can change. Um, Hopefully, I pick something that's more pleasant to watch. But Apostle was one that was I was really considering because I think I've talked that one up to you before. I really enjoy that movie, but it's probably the longest. I think it's like 2 hours and 15 minutes. So that was probably not going to be a pleasant one. And you had a tight day yesterday, anyways.
Yeah.
So I ultimately went with this one because I think of the ones I was looking at, it was the shortest, and also just I haven't seen it in a long time, and I've been wanting to rewatch it because I picked up the collection, the sequel. I'm like, oh man, I haven't seen the collector in a while. I wish it was on a streaming service, and I went on Shutter, and bam, there it was. So yeah,
Match made in heaven for you.
for me, I ordered the Blu-ray as soon as I finished it.
Hey man, I only had to watch it once. It's okay.
Yeah, you don't have to watch it again. It's pretty cool. What were your other options for your first pick for next week?
So, I mean, it doesn't matter. I usually say it at the end of the episode, anyways, but I didn't this time. Is that next week we're gonna do Nosferatu? You know, I haven't watched it in a while, and I was more hesitant because like I feel like it's always longer than I remember it being. But
Mhm.
I feel like the last time I watched a silent film was probably Phantom of the Opera, and it was a rewatch, and it went by a pretty decent pace, so I'm not as worried about it.
We
I
both
just
picked
know I love it.
Blu-ray.
Yeah, we got the Kino Blu-ray, and the biggest problem for me was saying, "Hey, I don't want you to watch it on a shitty quality. I don't want you to see like I know it's public domain, but this is a great movie, and I want you to be able to respect it in the best quality you can." So I'm glad we picked up the Kino, and I think it's a Kino that's gonna be a great transfer, and you're gonna say, "Hey, I'm really glad I own this." So
It was also not too bad as far as prices are concerned. I
no,
think it was like what, $18 or something. It's not that bad.
yeah, it was totally worth it. So
It comes with a 50-minute documentary about the making of the movie too.
that's
I'm
fucking
actually
sick.
I'm excited to watch that after the
Hmm.
movie.
I just love Nosferatu because when you think about how film is done in this time period, and there's not a lot of cut and dry or set in stone ways of doing things, and they just do so many elaborate different tricks and the way that they showcase the vampire, or just have scenery really depict creepy and horrifying images for 1922. It's a marvel the way it came out, and I love it. And it's supposed to be Dracula. The I think it was the widow didn't want them to do it. They had to change a few things last minute, but it's still clearly Dracula.
Yep.
But the fact that it isn't Dracula and it is a little different has actually made it a better film and made it more individual to the fact where now we have a Nosferatu remake. And it's not a Dracula remake, it's a Nosferatu remake. That's fucking awesome. And
Yeah.
that's sick in its own right. So there's so many things that. Then there's Shadow of the Vampire, which is a movie talking about, oh, what if he was a real vampire? Like, this film has so much around it that's created its own little bubble of creativity that's vastly incredible for what it really should be. And that's just so astounding. And this is going to be your first foot into that pool. And I think you're going to be really excited when you get into, like, the next Nosferatu movie. Or, like, even Shadow of the Vampire. Like, I don't love Shadow of the Vampire, but I think the idea is really sick.
Yeah.
And I think
Josh has been trying to get me to watch Shadow of the Vampire, but I want him to watch the actual
Nosferatu.
film first.
Yeah, I think
Um,
Nosferatu is so cool because it's so weird how it's built its own little subsection of Dracula, if not also just vampires in general. It
yeah,
inspires vampires from like Salem's
Sam's
Lot.
Lot. Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Like I'm pretty happy to say that I think I've watched a decent amount of movies from pretty much every era of film so far. The one that is kind of the outlier though is silent era film. I've had a tough time getting into it, and I keep trying. I'll watch stuff like I'll watch the old Charlie Chaplin movies, and I the first full length horror film from the silent era that I watched, first full length movie period that I watched from the silent era was The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and that was by your recommendation. And that's just a masterpiece. It's a just insane film. The level of because the cool thing about silent era film, and I'm sure I'll get this in Nosferatu as well. It's just it's mostly visual storytelling because obviously all they get is like little title cards because they can't obviously you don't have sound, so it's mostly visual storytelling, and the actual filmmaking techniques of the time are so impressive, more impressive than some of the stuff that you see in some of like even the early talkies where it's just like the amount of craft that go into certain shots, like especially in Caligari, like the set design is just insane for the time, and it's wonderful. And on that style of photography, it looks stunning. And even just from the couple of shots and pieces of Nosferatu I've seen, it just looks absolutely stunning. So I'm really excited to watch that next week.
so I am very big into watching more silent horror films lately because it's not like it's a genre or a decade I haven't looked at because I've seen quite a few now, but I always like to dip my feet a little bit deeper into that pool and just see what's next or what I haven't checked off my list. And it's always cool to see how, holy shit, they did this. Like, it's always astounding when you see some really cool things done in a movie nowadays, but I'm always like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool they pulled that off. I watch a film from 1920s and they do something, and I'm not just impressed, I'm inspired. Like, if I watch an older film where they do some things like that, I just sit there saying, I want to go do something. Like, I want to film a skit, I want to create a video, I want to talk about this, I want to be involved in this, I want to feel like this has lent itself to my creativity. And that's something I get more in older classic horror films than I get in anything. I think a lot of 80s horror films shape my sense of humor, but a lot of early horror films shape my creativity and my inspiration as to what I want to do. And I feel like every time I watch films like that, it just tells me, like, what is my excuse? Why can't I do something? Doesn't have to be the same exact thing I'm watching right now, but, it's telling me that, like, if they could have done this with what they were given, like, I should try to do something, at least at the bare minimum, because I want to. And that's why those early horror films are so inspiring. I
I agree.
know I was thinking about doing a few other ones. We talked about maybe doing Eyes Without a Face, because I really like it. I like the small, subtle design. Um, I liked the idea of it, but it didn't have the same punch to me. Like, I knew we were talking about films we wanted the other to watch. Like, you had options. You're like, I wanted to see this and this and this. You're like giddy. You're like a kid at a candy store. Like, yeah, dude, which fucking thing am I gonna give him? That's awesome. I love that excitement. Like that makes me happy. Like the coolest when we talk about films is seeing the other get excited about what we're gonna talk and discuss. Like that's why doing this is a lot of fun. You know.
I'm glad I
Just,
handed you a nice plate of dog shit.
yeah. Well, the best thing is just two best friends is having fun talking about what they love about. You know, that's
Yeah,
the best thing about this. But when I'm there, I'm sitting here like I'm a fucking chef trying to find the right meal to dish out to you. Like I think I know his taste buds, you know, and I'm like, Eyes Without a Face is a really good movie, but I got to think of what have I seen that I think Mike needs to watch, not Mike should watch, and I'm like, there's things that you talk about watching and I know you'll get to it eventually. And I feel like Nosferatu is the perfect one because I know you're not going to get to it unless it's almost like you have to do it. So I thought, this is perfect. I haven't watched it in I think maybe 2 years. And I've already gone through a bunch of recent silent horror films like Haxan, The Man Who Laughs.
I
And
was gonna bring up Haxan actually.
yeah,
As far as like horror, silent horror, I want to watch is Haxan.
I'll
Haxan's
say
one.
this much. It's been the toughest one for me to get through.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because it's different stories in the movie. It's not one overarching narrative. So
I
that's
think there's a
tougher.
story behind it too that it was filmed. It was more coherent, and I think it was edited a lot
Oh.
because of content
Hmm.
for the time,
I
especially.
think they bring that up though in the movie, saying how like there's a lot of versions that have been edited out, but we try to put the most content in from the film or something.
Yeah, I think it's like a Last House on the Left situation where it's like
Mm-hmm.
they rip the movie apart and some of it maybe they lost.
I'd hate to say, but it shows like some of the
Yeah,
film, not like it's not coherent, but like it feels almost like a Trick or Treat where it's like story to story to story, less like a big overarching narrative. And if it's a film where there's not talking in it, that's already tough enough to like portray or transition to something different.
especially modern day for people
Yeah,
who are watching it through a modern lens.
yeah. So it's very jarring to see it in like the film. I
Yeah,
wouldn't say it's bad, and like I'm waiting to get because I didn't finish it. It sounds bad, but it's long and it's a silent film, so I paused it, and I've been so busy with shit I haven't been able to finish it. But I want to because I know some of the effects in the movie, and it's like that's really fucking cool. I want to get to it, and I've been really trying to check off all these early horror films that I want to see. I've been trying because there's a huge list of films from like the 30s to especially like the 40s. It's like I want to watch all of these, and Haxan's one of them. And when I check that off, I'll be really happy. Haxan and Freaks, those are the two where it's like if I get those, I'll feel a lot better about my list. I don't
I
know where
want
the
to see
fuck to get
Freaks too.
Freaks. I don't know where the fuck I can get it,
I want to see Freaks too.
but that's why silent horror is really cool. I thought about doing The Man Who Laughs, but I would almost say it's not even really a horror film. It really is like a silent drama. It's just at that time period, the way he
He
looks is
just looks creepy.
horrifying.
Yeah,
But I think you should check that out too. It's
I was.
obviously it's
I,
the image
oh,
that inspires the Joker.
yeah. I also don't know how. I don't know if I have access to that movie.
I have the 4K. So I would lend it to you.
Okay.
That's because it's played by Conrad Veidt, who's also in Caligari as the Caesar,
Yeah.
and I don't know, he's just fucking awesome. He's
Yes.
also the fucking Nazi in Casablanca. Isn't that wild?
Holy shit.
Isn't that fucking wild, man?
That's fucking sick, dude. That's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't put it all together. I'm like, man, this fucking crazy bastard's over here having me go through highs and lows just in his career.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, that movie's I would say a must-see, but if there's any silent film I would say I want you to watch, it's Nosferatu. That's why I didn't think too hard about the question, and besides those two, I was like, you know what? This is the one. Like, I would never say I'm going to make you watch the remake or make you watch something like Salem's Lot or other films that I've watched recently that I thought were pretty cool, but you need to see. 'Cause those are all films I think you will get to. But this is one I feel like is like, hey, put him in the chair. Make him
Salem Lot is the one that it's like,
3 hours, man.
yeah, I'm pushing that one off for a while
Yeah.
because that's just too
But
fucking
that's another
long.
thing. Like, I'm not.
TV
I have
movie.
to sit and make you watch it, but the problem is I often have to make yourself sit and watch that, and like I'm
Yeah,
not
so
sitting down for 3 hours saying like, I'll sit here and I'll be like, I made this happen.
It's my fault.
Yeah.
I'm upset now.
I don't think I'll have that problem in Nosferatu.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to watching it. I was happy to buy the Blu-ray because I mean I've wanted to watch it for a while, but I this is my first Kino movie.
I have the Phantom Keynote, and I want to get the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but I haven't yet.
I want both of those. I've wanted to get into Kino for a while, and this is just an excuse to buy a Kino. Um, so yeah, no, I'm looking forward to doing that one. Really looking forward to it because I've been wanting to knock that off a list for a while.
My favorite was easy to pick. I didn't think too hard about it.
I still haven't picked mine.
I mean, I think we're pretty sure we know what you're gonna pick, though.
I have no idea because I keep thinking of things I really wanted to pick, and some of them are ones that you haven't seen too. Not just ones because I didn't want to just pick one that we've both seen. Just
But
like
I mean,
you
I'm gonna
could
do
like
that.
I know which one you think I'm gonna pick.
Yeah.
I know which one you think what you think. But there's some that I was thinking about like for like I don't have one set in stone, so I don't know really which one I can talk about really. But I mean I guess it'll be a surprise when it happens. But like
It can't be
I
too much of
have
a surprise. We got to figure it out at least within 2 weeks. Because
yeah,
I
I
might
mean
have to rent or buy something if I don't have it.
I'm being careful to look at things that we both have access to, or I can give you access to.
Hmm.
Because like obviously I'm looking at doing my favorite horror movie ever. Nightmare on Elm Street. That's an option. That's one that I've been wanting to rewatch anyways. But I also have been thinking seriously about doing Suspiria,
Okay.
which I can give you access to
Yeah.
easily. Um,
But then you have like multiple copies.
I have 3 copies of Suspiria, so we'll figure it out
Yeah.
if that's the one I pick. Um, but I was thinking about that one. Thinking about doing the OG Texas Chainsaw.
Would be
But
easy for me. I mean, I've seen Nightmare and Texas Chainsaw, both films within the past 4 months.
yeah,
But
I haven't seen
I saw
either since
Suspiria with you like last year. And it's about 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
But I remember it very vividly.
2020 is a black hole. So,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, it's true.
well, I've been really wanting to rewatch Suspiria because we got the new theater system at the house, and the 4K that I have for it from Synapse has an Atmos track. So I want to hear that Goblin score in my fucking ears, and this like the sighing and all that stuff like the diegetic sound. I just feel like that's gonna make my skin crawl. I'm
Hmm.
like really excited to try that out. But yeah, like obviously Nightmare was always going to be an option. Um, Halloween's always in the back of my head, but I do want to save that.
Yeah, Halloween, I know we're not going to do.
Yeah, there's just a lot. Hereditary. That's a
That would
longer
give
one.
me a
That's
reason to watch it.
that's
I think
that's a longer
Hereditary
one.
would have been a smart choice for you to pick for the one you wanted me to watch, too.
Yeah, it would have been a good one. I was thinking about that literally today on my way home from work today. I was like, why didn't I pick Hereditary? Because it's on Amazon Prime
Hmm.
and I love it. But yeah, no,
It's only because like I've seen Midsummer and I know it's by the same
yeah.
people, so
Yeah, from what I understand about Midsummer, Hereditary is much better. I love Hereditary,
I would assume so.
but
I don't hate Midsummer, but I have issues.
yeah,
We
I
could
had a
always
couple
do a double feature where we do like 1 week Hereditary and 1 week Midsummer, which would be great because I've
'cause I
seen
haven't.
one and you
Yeah,
haven't seen that, and then vice versa.
I remember when Hereditary when after I watched Hereditary and Midsummer was coming out, I'm like, oh my god, I have to see Midsummer in theaters, and I just
Before
never.
Midsummer came out, I hadn't even seen Hereditary, and I saw people talking about it, and I saw the images, and I'm like, I want to watch this. Like,
It
this
just
looks
looks
fucking
beautiful.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I've
very different
wanted to
than what
watch it.
you see though in the images. I was
It's
like,
a tough watch, just because like I keep scrolling by it on Amazon. And it's like it's 2.5 hours or whatever. It's just like, oh my god, like I want to watch it, man, but that's really long, and it's not even the longest version. There's a 3 hour cut of the movie, and everyone says it's the better version. It's just like I don't want to watch the 3 hour cut. Um, Another option is The Shining.
that would be great, but we could also talked about how like we could do that in like November or December, whatever,
We
and
can
then
do
Doctor Sleep.
Shining with Doctor Sleep. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something I want to do. That's a reason why like that's being definitely held back from being a choice. I was looking at my movies the other day, and I was finding a bunch of ideas. Not all of them are coming to my head right now, but the big ones right now were like Suspiria, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hereditary, stuff like that. I've been thinking about Maniac is another one. The original 1980 Maniac, because I have a Blu-ray of that. I can literally just give you. You can keep it,
Mm-hmm.
because I own a 4K for it now. I'd love to do Zombie,
Oh yeah,
uh, Lucio Fulci Zombie, but I don't know that it's streaming anywhere. And I mean, I own the 4K for it,
yeah,
but it's a little bit tougher when you know I gotta watch it and then give it to you so you can watch it.
yeah. It is tougher, especially because we
So
usually watch it the night before.
yeah, those are ones that I am definitely scaling back as far as like the chance of them being picked is ones that make it tough. If I go on online and I find out tonight, oh, Zombie streaming on Prime Video, that becomes a contender because I
That'd be cool.
what
I'd
do you,
want to see it anyways. So
like you don't really particularly like zombies. Not that you don't like
not
zombies.
that I dislike them, but I don't like gravitate towards them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get that.
they're an oversaturated subgenre at this point.
I
But the,
I'm more willing to watch a fantasy type monster though than the sense of realism. Like that's my biggest thing with like Midsummer and a lot of films where it's like, oh, it's very done in a realistic atmosphere, and that's the new horror. It's like, hey man, there's nothing wrong with a few fucking monsters. All right, that shit's fun. Like horror has lost its element of fun in a lot of recent years. That's been kind of bugged. It's, oh, what about Stranger Things? Stranger Things is not fucking horror. Stranger Things isn't. A lot of these things that are very much like taking horror themes or whatever is great. And I love that shit. I do. It's not horror though. And like I'm not trying to shit on it, but I would love more actual like fun or like creative designs or just like art implementation in horror. Not that
yeah,
like shit like Us isn't art. Us is high caliber art, but
yeah,
a lot of the fantasy element is being lost. At least with Us, there's the whole tethered world, but in
yeah,
Midsummer, it's just it's a lot. It's just real life with just how it's done, and it's like it's not that it's bad, but sometimes it's fun to have some things be a little fucking kooky.
yeah. Another option I was thinking about too was Mandy
Oh yeah,
or Creep. Did you hear? Have you ever heard of Creep?
no,
It's on Netflix. It's one of the only found footage movies I like. Um, it's about a guy who has he has cancer and he invites someone to make a video for him for his unborn child,
oh this is
so
fucked.
so he can meet his father, but he may not actually be what he says he is, and it's very short. It's like 70 minutes. It's super duper short. It's got I believe it's Mark Duplass is the main character, and it's one of the craziest performances I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's
It's
cool.
super duper creepy, but I don't think I'm gonna go with that one. But that was another option too. But Mandy was a cool one because I sung the praise of that for a while. Um, but it's a bit. That's another one. It's like 2 hours and like 5 minutes or something. It's a longer movie. So
I'm picking Evil Dead too.
yeah, I already knew you were gonna pick
I'm
Evil Dead.
not. I didn't have to think about it. All the other ones that are my favorites, we'll get to, and like I'm not in a rush. I
Yeah,
can't see any reason why we'd have to watch Evil Dead 2 because we did the first one. We're not gonna just do two in a random spot. I could see us doing Army of Darkness with a random spot because it's a bit different of a film, but I think this is a good reason to do it. I love Evil Dead 2. It's one of my favorite movies, and it's a lot of fun. And a lot of the films we talk about are either just like talking about why a movie's so good or anything. And I like talking about why a movie's fun or why like I like being excited. And I feel like watching this film is just gonna be us like fucking dumbass kids on a roller coaster, like, yeah, let's go again on another ride. And I want to
yeah.
have more stuff like that. That'd be pretty sick.
I wasn't even considering this for my favorite, but one. I mean, if we're gonna do Evil Dead 2 and then we eventually do Army of Darkness, I really fucking want to do the Evil Dead remake eventually.
Yeah, because I
I,
never really like the remake. I haven't seen it since theaters. I own it.
yeah,
I own it on DVD, and I want to fucking bust out a DVD, but like I will.
I fucking adore that movie. Plus, like I was saying, like, oh, I kind of want to do Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I think you and I talked about that earlier. It's like this year we have another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie coming out,
Yeah.
so might as well just wait. If that even's still coming out, I have no idea. But
So that's what we have for ideas.
yeah, we'll see what we pick